Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Don, and in this video, I just wanted to talk about some of the issues that I think are present with Diablo 4, maybe some ideas that I had to solve those problems, and like just the general direction of the game, from even a design standpoint to the direction they're going and kind of the vision of the game going forward. So I have a list here on my phone of kind of just points that I wrote down in my frustration about the game, and they're in no particular order. But one of the, I guess, overbearing issues is kind of like where Diablo is at right now. There's a lot of comparison between, and I'm just going to get right into this, by the way. There's a lot of comparison between you hear a lot of like Diablo 4 is not good because, for example, it's not like Diablo 2. And I mean, I personally followed the development of Diablo 4, um, you know, for a long time. I mean, the game was in development for over 7 years, as you may know. And I think that the game has so quickly, just speaking on Diablo 4 itself, the game has so quickly deviated from release, to season one to season two. I would say release in season one felt generally the same. So I'm gonna kind of stick them in the same category. But from release season one to season two to season three, the game has gone through such drastic changes, and I feel like it's because Blizzard, or at least the Diablo team, is trying to satisfy too many people. And there's this whole thing I'll get into of like they are no longer the farmer leading the horse around with the carrot, but they're the horse being led around by the carrot now. And so let's get right into that. Like from a I guess I'll get into like the design standpoint of things. Season 3 just seems to be let's talk about like seasons are supposed to last 3 months, right? And I feel like from when seasons come out to the mid-season updates, there are such drastic changes that seem to it's like there's this problem where Blizzard seems to listen to the people that complain the most. And in a game like this, or I guess in most game, your biggest audience is going to be casual players. And I can already hear the comments coming at me, oh, you don't want the game to be enjoyable for casual players, but hear me out here. Um, I think that for one, a lot of the reason, why people might be saying the game is not good is because of this whole comparison thing where they compare the game to Path of Exile right now, or they compare the game to Last Epoch that just came out recently. And I don't like to compare things because it just kind of leads to this mindset that one game has to be the example of the way it has to be, or this is the only good way. And if the other games aren't doing it like this, like they suck essentially. But Diablo 4 has its own problems, away from the whole comparison conversation. And that's that, in my opinion, they seem to have a lack of clear vision. This is why you see such drastic changes. And it's gotten to the point where in season 3 and even prior to season 3, you're seeing it take a very minimal effort. Like, to be completely honest, it takes very minimal effort to have a character that can just do billions of damage and like one shot bosses like a Thanos snap and absolutely disintegrate them. And it just leads to a an experience that is subpar. A lot of people are saying the game is boring because it's repetitive, and a lot of that repetition comes from for example, you have to, in order to get your unique items, you have to farm Duriel, and in order to get the mats for Duriel, you have to farm Varshan and Griggy, right? Grigwar. And in order to farm for them, you have to do Helltide and do a bunch of seasonal events to get the heart, head, hand, and the femur, right? And it just is like this big kind of pyramid scheme leading up to Duriel, which in itself is a subpar experience. And so I have a bunch of ideas, in my head that I would love feedback on in the comments as I discuss them. And just, Blizzard is doing a good job of listening to the community. And I guess this video comes from a point of like, I would like to have some input on that because usually I just kind of stay out of forums. I stay out of having any opinion on it because it's just it can be such a vitriolic conversation where people are like, oh, you just want the game to be this way. That sucks. You suck. And it's like, I imagine even at Blizzard that they have very contentious but respectful conversations about the way that they think certain systems should be, within the game. So, um, I personally think, let's go back to season one. I personally think that Diablo in on release and season one felt good, and it comes from a whole, I guess, mindset of like the game was in development for over 7 years, and along that development process, they, were in talks and kind of coordination for game direction from with people, with content creators, with Diablo players that have been dedicated and playing Diablo for a long time, that have kind of like made Diablo the core or backbone of their content experience, of their gaming, experience. And I think that I honestly think overall, I think that Diablo 4 did a great job of taking some of the best things from every iteration of Diablo, from Diablo 1, from Diablo 2, from Diablo 3 even. And I really think that Diablo 3 kind of sucked, I'll be completely honest, but I did play it for, its entire existence. And I've been playing Diablo since I was like 8 years old with Diablo 1, right? So, I think they took a lot of, whether it's like thematically from Diablo 1 or some of I guess some of, I can't obviously, I can't say all the systems, but just some of the, overall, um inspiration from Diablo 2, and I liked how they took the modernization from Diablo 3, because if I can say one thing positive about Diablo 3, even though I could say many things that are not so positive about it, it's that the game felt modern, right? As opposed to when I go back and play Diablo 2 Resurrected, and you can only turn on like a 15-degree axis, you know what I mean? Like that game just, it's just different, right? So, I really like how Diablo 4 is in a culmination of all of those prior games, and I do like how they, had such a, in my opinion, integral input and important input from a lot of these content creators who have just put years of their life into this game. Now, where I think they went wrong is I had such a fantastic experience off the bat. Sure, there were some things to tweak and there were some things to balance out, whatever, whatever, but those first couple months playing Diablo were the greatest. They were absolutely the greatest. And then what happens is, in my opinion, Blizzard started to, I guess, lean in too much to the idea of listening to community. I think there's a balance and art to listening to community, as well as remembering that you yourself as a team and as, the respective leaders of those teams should have a very clear vision of what you want your game to be. Because if you don't, once again, I'm going to revert to that analogy where now you are the horse just being led around by the carrot, right? So, um, I love Diablo. I'm very passionate about it, and that's kind of where this video comes from. I've just gotten to a point where I'm so frustrated, especially since the release of Gauntlet, which I think is kind of pointless, to be completely honest. Um, my frustrations got to a point where I felt like I got to say something. So here we are. So we're in season one, and you have a majority of the casual community. I'm going to pick on casuals a little bit here. And there's nothing wrong with being a casual player, but there's certain things I want to point out that I do consider kind of like, kind of crummy about it. So, um, you have the casual players, at least the ones that are in this kind of subset of casuals that I'm picking out, or that, for example, say things like, "Oh, the mount was too slow," and now, for example, you're running across whole areas in the map in like 15 seconds. Like I've timed it. I've literally timed it. Right. Some of the biggest zones you can get across in like 15, 20, 22 seconds. Like it's just, it takes, in my opinion, it takes the immersion out. And I can hear it already. You're ruining my immersion. But I think that a lot of people just want this instantaneous satisfaction experience, and that just doesn't really work with what is going to be a game that's going to have a long, healthy future. And Diablo is set up as a game that should have a long, healthy future. But if the devs consistently cater to people who complain and complain and complain and complain in droves, and they don't understand why they're complaining, they just change things off the bat or off the whim. It doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, we're just building problems on top of problems. We're putting band-aids on top of, soggy, bloody band-aids or whatever. Like it's just it doesn't make sense to me. So one of the biggest things that I took issue with is when they took vulnerable, and I understand they've explained this and I read into it, but people I'm sure are gonna clarify me down in the comments, but overall, uh to this day I understand it as they artificially capped vulnerable because a lot of people are going vulnerable, right? So they artificially cap it as not a multiplicative thing anymore, but they artificially cap it as an additive um uh affix, suffix, whatever. It's additive at 20% now, right? Artificially capped. They changed, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, the monster health to kind of make sense, like rebalance things to kind of make sense. And they stand behind that. It feels better, but in my opinion, it feels unequivocally worse. Like worlds worse. There's no reason to artificially cap people's damage into thinking they're a good player. You're creating a false and fake experience, and that's not good. I feel like what they've done is make the power scaling in the game feel very like this. So I guess it's with my other hand, right? It'll be I think this is the other way on the screen. Uh on a graph, the power feels like it just goes up, very linear, I think, just like a ramp. And I feel like the power should go up more like if you cut like a U in half, like the letter U, just cut it in half. It should ramp up like that. And the reason is because, in my opinion, it should feel good when you get stronger gear, but in this game it doesn't. It's just numbers, and it doesn't really feel good to do more damage in the game because the mobs, even from the get go, off not having any aspects in the game, you can make a build just using your talent tree, and you get a couple rares that are absolutely already making the mobs cannon fodder. It just there's no sense of I feel strong in the game, and the counter argument to that might be, oh well, I can one shot bosses. That doesn't feel good. I I'm gonna stand behind that doesn't feel good. It might feel good the first time, that instant, dopamine satisfaction. Oh, I crushed the boss, turned him into dust. And now everybody's doing that. Like literally everybody. I just don't get it. I feel like there needs to be a rebalancing in the game where, for example, bosses feel like bosses, and that would, I think, equate or make sense with the power scaling going up like this, right? There should be a point where, say, like, as you're going up the power scaling and you get to like here, like most players, say, like in Diablo 2, at like level 80, 85, most players, you can kill everything in the game, you can destroy everything in the game. But when it comes to like bosses and stuff like that, they should still feel like bosses, and they should scale with their world tiers effectively so that, you know, sure, you can destroy everything else in the game, but a boss fight should feel like a boss fight. And then when you do run into a player that, comes along and smacks the boss in like 4 hits, that should still feel strong. Like I don't get this whole instant Thanos snap mentality, and that feels good. That doesn't feel good. Um, and it trickles down into other problems of like when you're such a strong character, which doesn't take very many brain cells in this game right now. When you're such a strong character, um, the mobs already feel like cannon fodder with one player. When there's multiple players in one area, if one player is so strong, like for example, on my Necro, I can just sit AFK in an area and auto explode everything, and other players don't even get the chance to touch anything. That I don't understand if this is supposed to be a some sort of shared experience online, and we're supposed to be fighting the minions of hell and feel like we're doing this epic battle, and that's what the storyline kind of attributes, then I don't understand why we're rolling around like no clip gods. Like, just like untouchable no clip gods that are just destroying everything. Like it doesn't feel good. So I think that comes from the team needs to retract from listening to the community, and they need to really, like, how is it that they're sitting there, right? And can basically scrap or forget all of the work they did over the first 7 years or whatever, 8 years of development to get it to the point where it was, and then go, you know what, we got it wrong. No, I think it takes a little bit more self reflection on the team themselves to go, okay, just do things a little bit more nuanced. Like, I don't understand why the vulnerable change, which was the biggest one, which set things way off, why couldn't it be that, okay, vulnerable is too effective? Let's take that final multiplicative percentage, or however they do the math behind it, right? Because I'm not a super Diablo math guru or anything, but however they do the math behind it, why don't, like, the final effectiveness, instead of being 100% effectiveness, that final effectiveness that the player gets is 75%, or it's 80%. It's that stat isn't shown to the player, but we're just going to bring down the total effectiveness of vulnerable because it's a bit too strong, right? I, I, that was such a drastic move, and I really think that set the precedent for there's kind of no backbone, right? There's kind of no, we know what we want our game to be. It's just, oh, we upset the casuals. Remember now, I'm not trying to insult all casuals, but casual players, in the very fact that they're casual players, they are the same subset of customers who will drop your game for Pal World and play that for a week. And the same subset of customers that will drop Pal World for a week and go and play, Helldivers. Like, I'm playing Helldivers, I'm still playing Diablo, I have a level 100 Barb, a level 100 Necromancer, a level 78 Druid, and a level 69 Sork now. And I'm playing, I mean, I'm a full time streamer, full time content creator, right? But I'm playing Diablo kind of casually, as I also do guitar. I playing Helldivers and playing other games, but I'm just saying, like, there's not enough of a. I'm not saying, like, I'm not sure if I want to say it. The monsters aren't hard enough, but we got to remember the seasons. For example, I don't know how the mindset of behind Eternal Realm is supposed to work, but at least in seasonal, they're supposed to last 3 months. I'm not sure if the team remembers that. The Diablo team remembers that. So if you're more of a hardcore player, like, I raced the season, I did 0 to 100 or whatever, 1 to 100, in 2 days. I did it in 2 days, all solo. If you have a group, you can do it within 24 hours. If you're a casual player, you can definitely do it playing casually. I don't know, 2 hours a night. Forget 2 hours a night. Every other night, once every 4 nights, 4 hours on the weekend, 4 hours, or 4 hours on a Saturday, 4 hours on. If you're an actual casual player, and you get a couple hours on a Saturday, Sunday to play it, you can still get through a season in probably a month's time, right? And you still have a month and a half to play it. Like, I'm not sure they're how they're balancing the scales right now is that they're catering to the lowest effort player, and that is not healthy for the longevity of the game. The lowest effort player isn't attached to the game. They don't really care that much. And you know, when the effort is so low and you get the best players able to make their Seneschal pet, which, by the way, didn't need buffs, and prior to it getting buffs, it was already able to buy the best players who the 5% of the player base, 10% of the player base does all the work, and then the 90% of the player base, who's whatever the casuals you want to call them that, um, honestly, they don't do any work. Nowadays, you just go on, whatever website you want to, insert whatever website. I'm not going to pick on any of them in this video, but you insert whatever site you want to, build website dot, com, and you just look up a build. You don't even think. There's no effort. It's just it's such a, you know, I personally like doing my own builds. I personally still like figuring things out. And people might go, "Well, that's dumb. You're wasting time." But it's satisfying to me. It's satisfying to go, "I did this. I got my character strong. I figured it out, right? I can be happy that my brain figured out how to make the systems work in a way that, I can take care of every boss. I beat Uber Lilith myself. I didn't sit there and beg for people to run me through Uber Lilith. By the way, they should make it so Uber Lilith is a solo only achievement so people can't beg for it. Um, Hot take. So it just, you know, because there's such low effort um to become strong in the game, um everybody ends up being strong. Like this season, it was the Hoda Barb thing, right? Everybody, it's the season of the Barbs. I'm a Barb. I'm Barb life, Barb life, Barb life, Barb life. Right? I love Barb so much. Hardcore Barb since Diablo 2, but at the same time, I just don't. I've never gone the full Hoda build. I've never even looked at it. I don't even know how it works. Like I understand Hoda based, but I don't know how the Paragon board. I haven't looked at it because I don't care because it's unsatisfying to me. It would be so boring. It's already boring enough that, for example, to get to the strongest point of your character, at least on a Barb's journey to Duriel or whatever, um, there is no, for example, randomization in boss battles. Like I'm especially just going to pick on Duriel here, and I guess it could also extend to Grigor and Varshan. The mechanics being sequential and always being that way is the most god awful and lazy effort. I don't know what else to call it. It's absolutely laziness. I don't understand why there's not more randomness in the mechanics. So even if you have me doing the same repetitive thing over and over and over, um, it's a little bit more interesting and not so mind numbing and just dead brained. Like a lot of people are saying that the game is boring because of the repetitiveness, and I want to just nuance that statement a little bit. Um, the game being repetitive is not why it's boring, because whether you're playing a digital game or you're playing a real life sport, or you're doing anything, you're just living life. Most people's routine, if not, the the large majority of people's routine, um, like almost everybody, is baked in repetitiveness, right? We all wake up, we do the same thing, right? When you're playing hockey, it's the same thing. The rules are the same, the point is the same. Get the puck in the net. When you're playing soccer, football, westernized football, European football, whatever you want. It's the same thing. It's literally the same thing all the time, right? Um, Olympics, people long jumping. You haven't seen people long jump before. You haven't seen people run the 100 meter dash before. They're running. You know what I mean? But that's not it. It's the context within. It's the context within that makes something interesting. It's not always the same runners. Sure, I might be killing demons in Diablo for 10,000 demons in a row and hours on end, but the context isn't always the same. The fight has to be exciting. And the fight isn't exciting. Simply. The fight isn't exciting. There should be a point where my character is so strong, going up that ramp thing I'm doing again. There should be a point where my character is so strong that um I can absolutely demolish everything in the game, including bosses, and kind of turn them into dust. But to get to that point, it should take some effort, and that's what makes, I think, the sense of this kind of digs into like community a little bit. Like, so for example, like if you're a little lowly level 20 pleb and you're wearing cloth armor of the paper dust, right? And you see a character above you that's level 100, and they're wearing dragon's armor of the death breather, right? And they're absolutely just demolishing, right? You're gonna go, oh my Becky, look at her powers. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're gonna want to be like, oh my god, I holy crap, how do I do that, right? Like, that inspires other players to play. But I don't know what inspires other players to play right now other than just getting to instant satisfaction mode. Like, they, they created their own problem. They literally created their own problem by doing this. And I don't know what to say about the Hoda Barb thing. It's like, was there no math or calculation, or you know uh, where was the effort put in to make sure that, that there's not flavor of the month builds? I think every build should be viable, and I don't see why that can't make sense. Like, I don't even understand the counter argument to that. Every build should be viable in a PvE based game, right? You can change the way the skills work in PvP. You can literally just change the way they work in PvP. Play with the percentages. Have a different balance for PvP if you want to. Like, as soon as people go into the PvP zones, right? Because people are probably going to have different builds and different gear for PvP anyway. I don't understand. Um, so I haven't even gotten to my list yet. We're gonna get to this list. So, um, the comparison, I left off at the beginning with the comparison versus last epoch and PoE. I think that I'm happy for those games doing good. I'm just tired of people comparing, comparing, comparing. And I think that I'm not sitting here defending Diablo going, Diablo's perfect. It's great. Good to go. I'm saying that as passionate I am as about it, I want the game that I enjoy to be much better. Much better. It's got to be much better. And it's got to start with the team taking a hard look at themselves and going, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Not what are we and a whole community whining about here, but what are we doing here? Right? So some more just, I guess, direct problems with the game that I have, and this is in no particular order, but like uh more tabs. Obviously, I don't see any reason why there's a limitation on tabs. If and I have ranted so many times off camera about the UI UX people. The UI UX people, you guys, like, I don't understand. Do you just dislike the community? Do you dislike making things practical? Do you dislike giving the community and the players good UI and user experiences? Because they're not good. They're not good. They're not good. I'm like, they're impeccably not good, right? Um, yeah. So if they want to keep it graphically the way that it is, they're still missing one extra tab in the game, and I don't even have to pull up the game right now. You go look at it yourself. But the fact that if you were to make like each five characters, each five playable heroes in the season, and you try to, well, I don't know, store gear plus aspects. Like, let's say you're storing PVE gear, some PvP gear, and just a couple extra aspects for if you're swapping gear and testing out gear. And I guess materials are shared, but there's not enough. Period. There's simply not enough. That brings me to, and also this is kind of a sister issue to this, or a twin issue to this, or whatever. But how are you only going to have season 3, right? How are you only going to have 12 character slots, but 5 playable characters? Make it make sense. I don't care what you guys think the average player is going to play. I want to be able to make every single character every single season if I want to. One druid, one barb, one rogue, one necromancer, one sorcerer, right? I'm an old Diablo 2 player, so it's sorceress for me. It's always been sorceress. Anyways, like that's just embarrassing. I don't understand. Like how many megabytes is a character file on the servers? Like what's the limitation here? I would like more clarity around issues instead of always being given the corporate answer. Like there's no reason for it, and it's at this point it's kind of just pathetic. Um, when looking at a profile, you can't click or move your own character. What? That doesn't make sense. You right click a person, you look at their profile, you cannot move your character. You cannot move your character. So if for some reason you do it out in the field, out in the battlefield, and a mob respawns near you, you can of course hit escape and whatever, but you should just be able to move. I don't understand why movement is taken away. That doesn't. There's a UX, user experience, people. Like whose job is it to just make sure the game feels good when you're in it, in the menus, amongst all the system? Like whose job is that? Because I have a bone to pick with you. Like seriously. Um, Pressing enter to see items, back to UI UX people, man. What, what do you mean? I have to press enter to click an item. When I have my inventory up and say I have a vendor screen up and my party member puts things into the party chat, there's that little, you know, kind of grayish armor colored little line, and then you see the items pop up on your screen in floating text, but you can't even click them because they're unclickable. Dude, I don't think the UI UX people actually like their jobs. I honestly don't. I honestly don't. What if I knew how to do UI UX? I would just fix the problems myself. I would start posting like public code of just code I wrote myself to be like, here's you forgot this. You forgot scrolling inventories. You forgot extra stash tabs. You forgot moving windows. You forgot. You know, like you can't move the item screens. Like when you click an item and you just can't move it around your screen. I want that. I honestly want that. You know. Um. I don't understand why. I don't understand why. I can't have that. You can't move the trade screen. This would have to have a complete redesign because the trade screen is kind of just latched onto the whole left side of your screen when it comes up. So I would like to be able to move that and also move my character when the trade screen is up. I don't get this whole you're locked to your position. Again, trade screen, profile, not cool. Items taking up the entire screen. I think it's a horrible use of screen space. I don't understand it. It may be great for console players sitting 8 feet, 8 bajillion feet back staring at a TV, but I don't understand it I'm sitting right here. I'm sitting right here, right? 27-inch screen or whatever. And the item I'm looking at is like one third of the entire screen. Come on now. Certain sigils not stacking. Obviously, sigils have different effects and affixes on them, whatever. So obviously, they shouldn't stack, and they're different levels. But the Beast and Ice, it's the same sigil at the same level every time. Let it stack, please. Let it stack in a stack of 50. You know what? I'm even let the stacks of all stacks max out at 100. I don't understand this whole 50 stack thing because it's a problem with this distilled ice or distilled fear or whatever that stuff is called. I have like 13 of them, right? I'm almost at like I'm throwing them out. Like, come on. Um, yeah, the Beast and Ice mat stacking only 50. I just addressed that. So there's no hotkey for the materials and stats page. There should be. I don't. There's nothing more I need to say about that. If you're a min max player, if you're trying to really squeeze out that last bit of, um, how good your character is, that last bit of power, you're going to reference, especially when you're testing out different gear or different builds or different times in combat where you need to see, uh, you know, say your armor multiply or another statistic multiply. You reference that screen often. So I think there should be a hotkey that is rebindable to be able to change that to whatever people want, whether it's on a mouse key, anything, like anything. When you're splitting items, oh man, UI UX people. Okay, when you're splitting items, right? The writing prompt doesn't automatically go to the number of items you want to split. I just well, I should be able to shift right click and then hit the number 9 and it should say 9 and then I should just press OK. That's it. Not shift click. Oh, now I got to click the writing prompt over. Yeah, no. No, no, no. Highlight the number or backspace it myself. Nah, dude. That's not it. That's not it. If there's such like there's so many other um I guess departments of Diablo that I praise, whether it's like the immersion of the world, which we screwed up by listening to casuals. My horse is too slow, so now I got to run across landscapes in 12 seconds. And you can't trot anymore. I don't understand. You can walk on console. I don't know what they're doing with the inconsistency between the movement speed on console players and the movement speed for desktop users. Console players can RP walk, as they call it. You can slow walk your character, right? If you ever see anybody walking slow, they're on a console. They're using a controller. Or I don't even know if it works if you use a controller on desktop. I should try that. Um, but that is, it just feels kind of robotic, right? To the horse going as fast as it does, there's no need for it when you still get hitched on the map on invisible walls and the horse and like the pathing still gets hitched on things that you shouldn't get hitched on, and you're running faster than mobs can spawn on screen. You created your own problem. I don't know how you're going to fix it. And I feel like sometimes the only way to fix it, if I was in charge, I'd be like, just revert it, period, and let the whiners whine, period. Your game is a story, first and foremost, PVE driven experience, and you consistently want to cater to these players who will leave your game and who have left your game because they're not getting what they want. Um, let's treat it like parenting, right? Well, what happens if you just give a kid what they want all the time without any like pullback, like any balance, any, put your foot down? I just think that comes down to vision, and the vision is lost when you keep catering to people. The people are complaining in droves. Like, come on, man. It's not always the loudest voices in the room that have the best ideas. I should say. I don't know. Um. So next we got you can't just drag elixirs or boss mats over to the main inventory. You have to drag them to the specific inventory, which these split inventories are kind of bad in my opinion. I've always opted for the idea of because the UI is so arbitrarily big, everything is just so big and console based, that you should have a scrolling inventory. I don't care if I have items beside mats, beside aspects. I want it all on the same screen. Having it separated, if you want to talk about things that you do to make the experience better for players and make it so, oh, players don't have to do enough. Oh, you know what? Uh, Mats for Grigwar are being time gated. Let's have hell tied up every 5 minutes. I'm not going to say if that's good or bad. It's whatever, right? But the inventory experience is archaically bad, and that needs to be overhauled. And I don't understand why it's just being forgotten about. Like, are you guys so? Is the team so stubborn that you guys just want to hide behind? Oh, here's one more inventory, or sorry, one more tab stash. Good to go. Like it's not. That's not it. Missed the swing and a miss with that one. Um, Again, that's a bandage over like a just like a gushing wound. Like, come on. Okay, so you have to drag them into the specific inventory, the elixirs or boss mats, or they won't go in. I think that's just bad. Bad experience. It's double as bad because the item disappears from your mouse icon, making you think it went in, but in reality, it went back into the stack you're trying to split from, and it didn't move at all. So that sucks. That whole experience sucks. Um, and it has to do with a core design philosophy of how I guess they thought that the inventory needed to be split for some reason. It doesn't at all. Um, okay. I'm like, it's the same reason why like most players, for example, a lot of players download bag solidifying mods or whatever for World of Warcraft. They want all their bags in just one screen, and they'll organize it the way they want to organize it after that. Um, you can't add friends or chat to friends from the character screen. The character screen is pretty useless. It's just to stare at your character and okay. But I should be able to invite people before I even go in the game. I don't see why that's not a thing. Again, it's just UI UX people. I don't know what they actually focus on because I don't think it's Diablo. You can't add friends from the character screen. Yeah, I just read that. Yeah. Only 12 character slots. We went over that. Um, Buffing characters, even though the mobs are useless, we kind of went over that at the beginning, right? The characters are so strong. You can make a character so strong with such minimal effort that not only are the mobs useless, but then it extends into my next point again here that we went over earlier, which is there's not enough mob density for groups to feel like they are playing together, right? Especially when one character is so strong. And I've seen these complaints over the forums, and I've seen these complaints, here and there, Twitter and elsewhere, that mobs are just one shot cannon fodder, and it makes it boring for all other teammates. It was a big problem when like last season when we had the Sorks with the lightning ball, right? Lightning ball Sork. And now we have barbs like when I'm in a dungeon, playing with other people, and if they're not barbarians because I have such high run speed and I just charge through everything, they don't even get a chance to touch anything. Not even Sorks. They go to teleport to something and cast, and unless they're like again a really strong lightning ball Sork or something that also kills instantaneously, which seems to be the idea that this game is going towards, which needs to stop, then you're useless as like an it's not that's not fun. You've taken out all of the idea of teamwork, and I don't know how you plan to put it back in. So good luck with that. In my opinion, I think they need to increase mob density, which you only are going to have a limited. There's a limitation to that because obviously the zones are only so big, and you want to have some negative space in between. You don't just want to have mobs everywhere. So what? Maybe you need to make mobs stronger. Maybe the game needs to be rebalanced, like I was saying before. Maybe the game shouldn't be so much that mobs are just useless things to fill the screen. They're supposed to be minions of hell. Anyways, um, so or add more challenging areas or add higher world tiers. Now, a lot of people will not like this add higher world tiers area because they're like, "What, do you just wanna do the same thing over and over again?" I'm like, I and somebody actually responded me that to me on a Twitter thread, and I was like, "Dude," I'm like, "You're doing the same thing anyway. You're literally as soon as you log on the game, my dude, you're doing the same thing in tier 1, 2, 3, 4 anyway. You're killing mobs, you're playing Diablo. You've done the same thing since Diablo 1, Diablo 2, Diablo 3, Diablo 4. You are literally, if you're not playing the storyline, you're doing the same thing over and over again. There may be different objectives, but you're always doing the same thing. What are you doing? Killing mobs. That's what the game is. Okay. Right? Like, add higher world tiers. I think that here's another thing I can say positively about Diablo 3. I think the higher world tiers were kind of good because it allowed the player to challenge themselves rather than this whole idea that, like, whether I hear it in like one of the Diablo videos, like, the gauntlet will drop you 925 gear. Who cares? Useless. The item power number is effectively useless other than a couple of stat lines, right? Like on Druli, how it increases your max resistance or, it increases your max DPS on a weapon. But what's more important is to actually get the proper affixes on, what's to get is the proper stat lines on that weapon. So, for example, there's been plenty of times where I can just versus a piece of 925 gear, I can be like, I've held on to an 837 item power item. I've held on to an 859 or whatever other number, right? Because the 925 literally just sucked. It just sucked. It doesn't matter that it's 925. The RNG just sucked on it 9.9999998 times out of 10. That's how RNG works. But so I don't, this whole idea that item power means much, it's really not the most, not even near the most important factor on gear. Um, and I wish it was different. I wish it was like, I wish 925 wasn't the cap. If there was a world tier 5, I would say that, I think I explained this to my girlfriend the other night. I wish there was a world tier 5 where, for example, maybe the item power went up to 1200 and they didn't change where you got uniques. So uniques would still come in at world tier 3 or 4, whatever it is, right? And so you could get uniques, but this is me trying to go back to my design philosophy of making the power scaling ramp up like a U cut in half, like slowly, and then you really start scaling up. Um, and the reason is I just forgot what I was gonna say. Let's see here in mob density. What's yours? Oh, the item power going up to um item power about 1200. So the uniques that dropped in World Tier 5. Now, this is just idea, and there is way more thinking behind this because I can already see the flaws behind it. But if say like a unique from World Tier 5 had an extra stat roll on it, right? So there is now a difference and a reason to challenge yourself more to get that unique. It's somebody in World Tier 4 has the grandfather, but somebody in World Tier 5 has the grandfather that's like, you know what I'm saying? Like I just want there to be incentive to get stronger in the game rather than it just being like, oh, just do the right Paragon board, get these aspects that you can get from most dungeons, very low effort, and boom, you are OP, good to go. It doesn't, I don't know. I just feel like, I almost feel like some people might, I can hear the comments, they're like, you just want the game to be more of a grind. No, I want my efforts to feel like they're more rewarding. That's all. I also said this example the other night. Imagine there in Elder Scrolls or something, you just walked up to whatever boss in that game, and I understand it's a single player game or whatever. I think it is at least single player experience, right? You play by yourself. And imagine in that game, you walked up to a boss and just like smash 80 billion damage, and it just like disintegrated. Like, it's not the same type of game. No, but the concept is the same. You're fighting a boss. The bosses should feel like bosses. So when I defeat them, for most of my time fighting them, they should be the stronger one. And only when I get to that tippity top, last 10%, 5% power threshold of the entire scale, should I be the one that's like, haha, you're in here with me now, sucker. But until then, it shouldn't feel like that. And it's way too, the threshold is way too large. It's way, and that might be just the current design philosophy, but I'm telling them that it's not healthy for the longevity of the game, and I don't need to tell them because the people, the casuals, the same casuals that whined about the game not being rewarding enough, or that its seneschal is not strong enough, or that the mount's too slow, or that they don't have enough power, are the same ones that left the game for other games right now. I don't even need to mention them. Everybody knows what they are, right? So, next, you cannot invite a person without that person. Well, you can't. Yeah, you can't just invite a person without that person typing in a public chat channel. If they only whisper you, you have to add to friends to invite them. I don't. That's fantastically lame. I. That's pretty unacceptable to me. That's just. I don't know whether to call it laziness. I don't know what. I cannot call it inexperience. I don't know what that is, but you should be able to invite anybody. I don't. This isn't a new feature. This isn't a new feature. This isn't like we're trying to be cool and different. Just make it so you can right click and invite anybody if they chat in any channel, whisper, clan, like anywhere. I, come on, dudes. No crafting, lame. Um, like when in crafting is a whole nother conversation. I can get into in another video where it's like, and maybe I'll touch on it a bit here, where it's like you could introduce crafting on like like let's just take rares. You could craft rares with your materials that you have hundreds of thousands of. Like, I will never run out of materials. I have way too many, right? Way too many. You should be able to use them to craft rares, and maybe not, because I don't just like, again, I don't like just instant, easy access to power. I think it should be like, okay, if you want to craft a rare, that's good. You can influence what stats you want on them, or maybe just get them straight up, but there has to be like a decent input of materials to get that stat, right? It's got to be worth it. Again, the balance has to be right. But if you could influence the affixes, the stat lines that you get on the item, it would at least give their, I mean, because it eventually there becomes a point where you have so many materials that they're just useless. They're just whatever. Like, I run around when I'm destroying dungeons and stuff or helping other players. I don't pick up nothing. I don't. If it's along my path, great. If it's not, I'm not going back for it. It's a waste of time. I don't care. Right? Give me a reason to want to use materials, and if I can again influence the stat lines and then start to craft rares that I want to then turn into materials based on aspects that I farmed or saved or whatever. Boom! That's, I think, a cool addition to the game. Let me know what you guys think of that one, or let me know what you guys think of literally everything I'm going through. Um, I said you can't trot with a horse. Again, listening to the casual crowd that will drop you like a rock kind of ruins everything. I stand behind that equivocally. There's nothing wrong with being a casual player, but I think that in any game that I'm a casual player, I don't sit there and whine that I should have the same things as people who put in effort, right? If I'm a casual player, I sit there and enjoy my experience as a casual player. If I'm only putting 2 hours into a game, so freaking be it. I'm enjoying it. If I'm a casual player and it's 2 months into a 3 month season and I'm only level 20, but I'm destroying little fallen goblins and whatever Rakanishu dudes and like fallen imps and loving it, so be it. I don't sit there going, um, you know, why don't I have the same thing as the character putting like 6 hours into Helltide, even though I only put 1 hour in? Come on, the barrier end. Like, I just there's so even if that's not the best example, there is a lot of examples of that where I don't think things need to be changed to make it a less of a grind. I just think that you need to have more things to do across the entire spectrum of casual players to hardcore players that gives them something to enjoy, even though they don't have the things that the hardcore players have. I don't know. Um, Goblins are really bad. Goblins are really bad. Goblins should be an exciting experience, and I'm not sure where they got lost in the whole script of making Diablo mobs, but not only the goblins, but it seems like a lot of the mobs of Diablo have kind of been forgotten about, as if they're not important. Like, they forgot that they forgot that for as much attention as they gave to them releasing the sounds of Diablo and the music and sounds of weapons and pictures of the environment, stuff like that during development, That made players like me excited as hell because I enjoy being in the world. But as soon as you took out immersion and made it all about just instant satisfaction, the world becomes doesn't matter, right? I just want to go from point A to point B now. That's the most players' mentality. You don't have them enjoying the game. There's other games that I liked being in for the entire time I played them, like H1Z1, for example. I just liked being in the world, right? Um, Diablo. I like being in the world, but and I know maybe there's people who will agree with me on that. You're making it not fun to be in the world, simply. Like we already have waypoints to travel quickly. I don't like I don't get the whole horse thing needed to be 15 whatever however much percentage you made it faster when you changed it. I think that was a terrible decision. Absolutely terrible decision. You got you got waypoints, you got portals. Go to town, take the closest waypoint. It's not that hard. Oh no, the players had to wait 30 seconds to get to where they needed to get to on the map. Oh no. That just ruins their the time that we're taking away from them. Oh no. So that's just I think that was very poorly thought out, and I wish that Blizzard would really slow it down and think about the impact that these decisions uh have in the long term. So, um, I was on the goblins, right? The goblins are really bad. They need more health. They're not an exciting experience. You see a goblin, and unless you're a really low level player, even a 20 to 40 can get to a point where they see a goblin at their equivalent level, they can destroy it, like destroy it. Um, they need more health. They also just a little idea, they maybe need abilities that help them escape more, like random teleports. They are goblins. They do come from their own world. I don't understand why there's no design expansion on that. It's like the design on a lot of the mobs is just lazy, and a lot of the bosses too is just laziness. So maybe they need to random teleport to get away from the player because that's what they do. They're trying to run away from the player, right? It's supposed to be like a sneaky little mischievous, like, hi, try and catch me now, right? But it's not. Um, Especially because the player can effectively make their static or base movement speed faster than the goblin. So I don't really know what that's about. Maybe have things for them to detect when a player gets a speed boost, and they get a speed boost sometimes, not all the time. Again, you have to insert more RNG into interactions and boss interactions, right? I'll get into world bosses and again Duriel in a second. Um, so random teleports, maybe blinding the player with something called like a gold snap. Like, there's just a gold flash around them, and your player like, I don't there's is there anything do they even have a blind ability anymore in the game? No, they don't, eh? You don't get blind. Do you? You just get dazed? Is there a blind? Anyways, some sort of dazed/blind effect, and you just hear like a mischievous little goblin laugh or something. Like, spice it up, guys. I got a million ideas. Like, come on. I'm, I'm just gonna lose my mind. I'm gonna lose my mind because this game is driving me insane. I love it so much, it's driving me insane though. I feel like there's no investing in the natural mob family storylines. We have the drowned in the game, we have the fallen in the game, we have the goatmen in the game, but for some reason, we decided to go vampires for season 2. Come on. Come on, dude. That was so lame, in my opinion. So lame. It couldn't be more random. Like, maybe there was a way to fit vampires in, but again, the dev team celebrated the monster families and the monster designs throughout development, and I would have loved it if they would have continued digging into those storylines of those families. I want to see the storyline behind the drowned. I want to go into some drowned dungeon. That's awesome, right? I want to experience more of the Fallen's storyline. I don't care if it's just a seasonal event. Make it a seasonal event. Like, not a theme of a whole season. Make it a seasonal event, which you need more of, by the way. Not just repetitive one theme thematic. Oh, you drop this little bag into this bowl, and that's a seasonal event. You summon Malphus 80,000 times, and people just no, 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 no. That's laziness. Laziness. Have seasonal events throughout the season. So it could be like the first 2.5 weeks of the season. Oh my God, the Fallen are invading, right? And some chieftain of the Fallen, you know, has just like captured some subsect of the Fallen, or the Fallen are advancing on this part of the map, right? Go fight them back. And it's like a constant, again, Helldivers does this community based stuff fantastically because what does it do? It bolsters your community and the camaraderie between your community. It's not cheesy. A lot of people would love that for that, to go, yeah, let's beat them back. Like let's get our world back. Like dig into the world and the storylines that you've created that you're ignoring for crappy friggin' uh uh vampires, dude. Primal vampires. Lame. I don't know anybody who goes and fights the who's the I don't even know his name. I forget his name. The dude that you submit the blood to go fight the vampire guy. I don't remember his name. It's not important because it's boring. The entire storyline's boring. Speaking about storylines, when you start seasons, the initial storyline is complete laziness. It's like, okay, we're gonna give you the most minimal effort we can to give you like, I don't know, you can finish the seasonal storyline in like 3 hours, 4 hours, maybe 2 hours, just a couple hours, right? And all of a sudden, you're back into the world doing the same thing that you can complete in, I don't know, again, like less than a week if you have the time to do it. And all of a sudden, you're just same old nonsense, same old nonsense. There's no seasonal themes, there's no nothing, there's no excitement, there's nothing. Welcome to Duriel Farming Season 18. You know, you guys got to do better, please. Um, there's no gold sink. Gold is useless. Why don't you make it so that there are some things like, I don't know what you want to attach this to, but here's an idea. I don't know why you don't have a gold sink in the game. There's no gold sink in the game. Useless. I have over 800 million gold right now, and I've had like all close to 900 million. And I spend it on random mats from people who are selling mats for in-game gold, right? Because I don't the real people duping mats. That's a whole nother conversation. That's completely lame. But I have over 800 million gold right now, and it's completely useless. So some people might hate this, but here it is. And if you hate it, whatever. If you have a better idea or you have a way to iterate on my idea I'm presenting right now, would love to hear it. Right. So uh your Paragon board is what it is. You get your 225 points or however many points you get, that's what you get, right? What if there was a way to augment your Paragon board through a challenge that incorporated gold as like, okay, so for example, whether you want to call it a dungeon or a time trial or call it like, make it a throwback, call it the cube or something, like a throwback to the Harajar cube or something, you know what I mean? Like make it an actual take this from I think it was called the cube in Lost Ark, right? Where you could play it up to 4 players and you went into this room that was ever changing, right? And mobs just kept spawning and there were different challenges and blah blah blah. You could play it as one player and get up to like the 20th level and get a rank. And what if when you did that and you got the highest rank, again, this is a challenge to players that I think would be sick, right? Blizzard, if you take my idea, you have to make me a Diablo partner. I'm not even kidding. If you take, listen, I want to save this game. Okay, I want to save this game for casual players, for hardcore players, for all the players because I don't. I want to help. That's simply it. I want to help, and I don't know what's going on over there. I don't know what's going on over there. The conversations that are being had and the end result of those conversations seem to be from lack of vision, and I want to help. So if there was something like the cube from Lost Ark, if you haven't played it, go watch some YouTube videos on how that works. And once you got the highest rank, you got some item, call it whatever they want to call it, right? Uh Shard of the World Stone. I don't know, call it whatever, right? And you took that item and it augmented your glyphs or your rare nodes. So, for example, you could augment and buff some aspect about a rare node and make it stronger, but it would be really hard to get those items. Like, it should be really hard to get up to level 20 cube. It shouldn't be like the gauntlet, which is ridiculously easy. Once again, you're catering to the casual crowd. I don't even, you want to sit there and say, because I watched the video, you want to sit there and say, oh, it's not for item farming, but you're gonna give 4 caches full of more useless 925 gear where not 80 to 90% of it realistically is going to be salvaged for more useless mats that people are never going to touch because they just stack up into the thousands. Can we take a look at this and be real? Like, it's a problem. Can we just be realistic about this? So that cube thing, by the way, um, it would be a gold sink as well. I don't care if it costs 100,000 to do it and it costs more per day to do it. Like, you can only do it, you can do it as many times as you want per day, but it's limited by your gold. And then it resets every day, or that you can, you know, it gets more expensive and it resets every week. So if they want to tie it to the Tuesday reset or whatever, I don't know how they want to do it. But I think that having a goal sync that's attached to a challenge that gives you a reward to make your player stronger, that isn't a borrowed power system like you guys decided to do with Metamorphosis, Hectic, the Bat Dodge one, and whatever else. I'm like, no, no more borrowed power. Give me ways to make my character stronger myself so that I can feel good that I did that. I got that item, right? And it wasn't just RNG. I did a challenge for it. I did that. Come on. Potions are borderline useless, as there is an overabundance of them. You guys want to talk about taking some of the best parts of Diablo 1 and 2? It was the fact that survivability wasn't guaranteed. It was the fact that you had a belt slot. It was the fact that you had to keep that belt slot filled with potions, otherwise you're in danger. And in Diablo 4, potions are just dropping by the wayside, bro. Just potion for you, potion for you, potion for you. You know, everybody's getting a potion. They're borderline useless. There's an overabundance of them. Also, the priest healer is also fairly useless, as you can just die and get full potions, and also you can just eat the pretty insignificant repair cost and just carry on. Nobody sees a problem here. With a belt slot, if you brought it back, which you won't because it's way too late for that. But if you did, or you reintroduced it in an expansion and went, haha, we learned. I don't know. I would love to hear the reasons behind why they didn't include a belt slot. Um, for I don't care what the players say. I want to know Blizzard's reason. I don't care what the casual is going to say. Oh, you're making it harder to live, bro. The mobs don't even hit you hard enough. What do you mean? Um, so with a belt slot, not only do the other characters, other than the barbarian, get another aspect slot, which I think some of them need because if half those characters are using a two-hander with all the uniques that are available for all the other classes as well, and the uniques half the time don't even have aspects good enough to make them worth it. Honestly, the uniques need to be better in the first place. The uniques shouldn't be I don't know. The unique should be oh my god, look at the effect on that. I'm using that. That's what the unique should be. And if they're not like that, we have a problem. Um, so you can just eat the repair cost with a belt slot. Not only do the other characters, if you're a druid, a sorc, whatever, using a two-hander and giving up one of your aspect slots, do they get a way to get their aspect slot back, right? So they now can choose whether they want to use two one-handers and get, whatever. For the barb, I don't know. The barb already has 4 weapons. We get all the aspects in the world. I don't know how you want to. I don't know. I don't know what you want to do with that. The barb only gets an aspect at half power on the belt or something. I don't know. That's not. Figure it out. um. So not only do the other characters get an aspect slot, but it would actually make the idea of surviving much cooler, in my opinion, because picking up potions might actually feel good and not arbitrary. Taking out belts was one of the worst decisions in this entire game, in my opinion. Um, Bosses need to be way better. And I kind of went over that. They need more interesting mechanics. They need more mechanics in general. Um, them having like 3 to 5 mechanics, boring, very boring. They don't need phases like Lilith or anything because she definitely has more than a couple mechanics. But they definitely need more, and they need to have more RNG in their mechanics. Duriel always does the same thing. Varshan always does the same thing. Grigor always does the same thing. The world bosses, there's more randomness in their abilities, of course, but I don't understand why that doesn't extend down to the dungeon bosses, I guess you can call them, right? I have no idea. I'm so even if Grigor wants to do his little flashy little electricity floor intro every time, which is boring, can he at least come down and do some different stuff? I guess he does a little more than some of them, eh? Yeah, I don't know. More RNG, more abilities. I guess just more abilities in general. They're just a little bit boring. Um, the bosses are a bit scripted, and it sucks. Um, there's no Helltide random events, so it's the same old Helltide every single time, and now you've made it 5 minutes apart all the time. 24/7 essentially. But what about some varying, like vary it up? Give me something like here's a couple just words I wrote down, like a Hell Dawn and a Hell Night, which would give the monsters of the Helltides different affixes, right? So maybe a certain subsect of monsters in the Hell Dawn move faster, or just did more damage because they're empowered by the Hell Sky or the Hell Dawn or whatever it is, right? And the Hell Knight, maybe certain monsters moved faster. Like I'm trying to bring back some of the scariness of you shouldn't feel like an absolute deity out on the battlefield. Like there should be some sort of um, you know, the monster's feeling scary, the monster's feeling powerful. There's you not no you missed that completely. You took the Diablo 3 route and you missed it entirely. You missed it entirely taking the Diablo 3 route on monsters. Um, I say there's no way to leave Gauntlet, but that's before I realized that the way to leave Gauntlet is actually through the leaderboard, which is another UI UX thing that is massively frustrating. I should just be able to teleport out. Just let me leave the dungeon. Nothing else makes sense. Let me leave the dungeon, and it just doesn't count. Done. And let me go back in. Done. That's end of that one. There's no way to go to the end of the leaderboard list or scroll through. Like you don't have a first and last page. Okay, next. You're a story driven game. I want to play Diablo. This is the biggest one. I want to play Diablo. I think that Gauntlet is useless. I think it is useless. Absolutely useless. If I just think it was a giant waste of time. A giant waste of time when there's much bigger issues to solve about the way the game feels, in my opinion, than introducing a mode that doesn't give you anything other than you want people to be happy about um you want people to feel prideful or happy about a leaderboard. I just I don't know. I don't know. It's just not it, man. It's not it because what's going to happen is the same thing that always happens. You guys are trying to sell it like you can take different routes and blah blah blah. No, meta already happened. There's already maximized routes. There's already YouTube videos. There's already, this is what you want to do to get a million score or whatever it is. Like that's already it. And if you're, I mean, I strongly argue that if you're not doing it the min maxed way, that you're not even going to get anywhere close to those scores. So what are you trying to do? Are you just trying to create this mill of players who are consistently doing it's not the repetitiveness, it's doing the exact same gameplay loop over and over again mindlessly without any actual satisfying reward. Some of the ideas I gave in here, which one of them I want to pull out, which was the way to augment your Paragon board and upgrade your Paragon board, the glyphs or the nodes, specifically, I think things like that where players can chase personal power and and again, the way to do it was with a cube. So it's a system that's outside of regular PvE Diablo, right? But it's a system that works so much better than the Gauntlet, right? You can have leaderboards for the cube if you want. Like you could even just make them a subsect of your current leaderboards, which absolutely need work. Can we start with the first and last page button, please? I don't want to click through 99 pages to see where I am on a character if I'm just getting on a leaderboard. I'm sure nobody wants to do that, right? But they might want to take a screenshot and share it. So there's a lot of things that they seem that are rushed or not thought through very well, and I my thoughts may have been a bit discombobulated today, but hopefully I made sense. I didn't really plan to record for over an hour, but here we are. So I just want Diablo to be better, man. This is honestly like a love letter to the entire Diablo dev team, and I know they listen to the community a lot, and I don't really think that my video is going to be seen by them or anything. But I would just love to hear your thoughts. If you've made it through this far, first of all, thank you so much. Um, thank you so much. I'm at the end of my gas tank, so let me know your thoughts down below. If you like content like this, where I'm just sharing more of my thoughts, whether it's on Diablo or anything else, definitely let me know down in the comments below. And you can catch me streaming at the links down below in the description. Once again, please like, share, and subscribe if you like the video, and I will see you guys in the next one.